welcome back. We're still in the book, The Invisible Ache, by Courtney Vance and Dr. Robin L. Smith. And today we don't have any students with us, but we have some men that have some strong opinions and thoughts on some things. So we're actually in the chapter where it starts with "Where do you hurt?" And I wanted to just start with the quote, and then we can introduce ourselves, talk about the quote that I'm gonna start with, and kind of go from there. But it says in the second paragraph, tending to your emotional health means acknowledging that you've had experiences and encounters that caused you pain. Then the next essential question is, where does it hurt? And so I'll stop right there, that if we're taking care of ourselves and starting to tend to our emotional needs, we will realize that there's some hurt maybe from past experiences. And so without answering the question, let's just go around and introduce ourselves so everybody know who's at the table or in the chair, and then we can kind of talk more on that quote. So we'll start with you, Terrence P. Head.
My name's Terrence Head.
You gonna hold the mic?
Oh yeah, I forgot. I'm sorry. I got my own one mic. Check, mic check, mic check.
You don't have to check it. We know it's working.
Always
We
check.
just
You know,
ready to
in
hear
the
what you
past,
got
I really,
to say.
I really been
The
wanting
people in the
to
balcony
be a
can
hip-hop.
hear you. Go ahead.
Really want to be a hip hop, be a rapper. No, my name is Terrence Head, and when we
You gonna hold that mic by your mouth, or you
Sure.
Just, okay.
when I really haven't had a chance to think about that quote, where does it hurt? Because I guess past experiences or past drama or anything like that, I try not, it's deep down, I don't bring it back up. I don't want to bring up issues. I think the biggest thing for me, one is my mom passed away. That was that was probably the most dramatic time of my past, because when she passed away in '08, I didn't even want to move anymore, because I relied so much on her. Just, as a grown man, I would always call her every morning to talk to her, and spend a lot of time with her. And I knew her. I knew what she wanted. She knew me. We would always just talk every day. So I think that's one thing I don't like to, drag up.
That you just kind of buried.
I buried, but I always try to, real talk, I try to live my life for her, or be the man that she always wanted me to, she wanted me to be. And that's why I always say, when I talk to a young, or if I talk to a single parent mother, I always say, well, a lot of people say, well, a woman can't raise a man. I'm like, well, that's not true. My mom raised me by herself. So.
Okay.
Finish.
I'm done.
So my name is Rodney Quinn. So of course everybody has positive and negative encounters that we go throughout life. What I have learned is that the encounters don't make you. It's just you have to develop different ways to deal with it and finding different outlets to cope, to just help you grow from each situation. So and you have to understand also that it's not just one thing. It's going to constantly change depending on what you're going through at that time, and as you grow mentally. So it's constantly changing. And I know there's this is so bad. It's a quote in the Bible that say there's always a season. People come into your life for certain seasons and various reasons, and I believe that. So at various stages, people might come in and assist you and help you through a situation, and they might be gone. And you just got to accept the help as it comes, and just continue to find ways to keep moving forward and making yourself better.
So the scriptures don't say people come in, but it says there's a time for everything, right? So I agree with you on that.
Yes.
And I was going to say, but if we bring it to our times, it is that people come in. I think our big problem sometimes in maturing and hurting is that sometimes when the season change, we don't.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Well, let me push you a little bit.
Okay.
So
We coming to you, Joy.
No, I'm good.
if the season changes, maybe it's not time for you to change yet, because maybe you haven't learned the lesson that you needed to learn yet.
Or sometimes I think as men, we will sit in situations longer than we have to.
Not wanting it to change.
Not wanting to change, or because it's comfortable, because because we're taught that we have to be certain ways, or sometimes we've grown up thinking we have to act and be a certain way, that when we get comfortable, feel like we've conquered that, it's easy to sit that way because that's where we're supposed to always be.
Can I chime in on that? I think when you said men sit and they might sit in a situation too long. I think sometimes men move too fast.
I agree with that too.
You know, I want to say I was just thinking about that. I was thinking about like how a lot of my friends in my circle, they all divorced, and they always say, "Well, how you still doing it?" I'm like, man, you know, it's something that you committed to, you know, and one of my friends like, man, I should have stayed. I said, yeah, you should have. I think there's always that time period where you gotta, you know, if you get through the rocky area, then it's gonna smooth out.
So let me just say this. I'm only smiling because Quinn asked the question when we weren't on the air. And so you didn't hear the question, but it might be an answer to like what you're saying, or maybe a start to what you're saying. You know what question I'm talking about, Quinn?
Mm.
That you asked Mr. Driscoll if he
Don't get me started
about
on
the
Driscoll.
enhancement.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
So why don't you throw that out, and then you know we can kind of, because I think this goes along with what he's saying. If you're moving too fast, maybe because sometimes we move because people expect us to be like, by 30 we supposed to be married. By this we supposed to have kids. By this we supposed to have done this. And so a lot of times we don't think like the end in mind. And so I think your question makes people think about the end in mind, because now I'm thinking about what am I doing now.
I don't want to put Driscoll on blast.
That's why I didn't want to say Driscoll, but it was a question you asked him. So you don't have to say about his relationship. Just
No, we were just talking. We were talking in general, and I asked. I can't remember how I worded it now, but I asked, how was he enhancing his partner in their current relationship?
for later, right?
To know if he planned on being with her later, what enhancements do he see now that he's helping her work toward?
Is that kind of how the question went?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But you don't have to answer it.
I wasn't.
I want to know now.
But what I will say to that question though is, you know, and I look at the title of the chapter, it says, "What do you hurt?" Like sometimes if we sit somewhere for so long, we think about our own flaws and whether or not another person will accept the flaws that we know, because we know ourselves best, right?
Sometimes.
We should know. I can't speak. Okay, so I'm not gonna speak for everybody, but like I, for one, am very self-aware. I might not always say something about myself to somebody else, but I'm very self-aware of who I am and where I'm at in life. And sometimes we overthink things, and when we overthink things, we end up staying in a place mentally or even physically that we no longer, or that no longer serves us, and it prevents us from making the progress that we can make because we're kind of like overstimulated.
So can I just say that when we talk about what does it hurt, sometimes you can't even figure out where it hurts until you are with yourself. And I think that a lot of times, even in relationships, and not just necessarily marriage relationship, couple, but just in relationships, we get wrapped up in somebody being around us all the time that we never take a moment to wine and dine ourselves, to find out, man, I love this about me. I love it, because then what happens? We get in relationships expecting somebody else to make us, to fix the parts that we maybe don't. You get what I'm saying?
And I do think it's a mindset shift. Like you have to, think about the good in you and not just like the flaws. Like when we think about like where do you hurt, where do you feel good? Like are we thinking about that? Is that gonna be something that we can use to motivate us out of those valleys? Because I know, Mr. Quinn, you had mentioned like, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Like we go through like the seasons, right? The mountaintops, the valley lows, and when we're there, we need those good things about ourselves sometimes to like elevate us. We gotta hold on to the good, because if we always thinking bad, like we gonna stay in those valleys for way longer than I think we have to.
Yeah. Jordan, you said you had.
Oh, by the way, I'm Vernon Driscoll. Hi.
I'm Trinell Jordan. No, I feel that. I feel that, AP. But the title, like this season of my life, I'm trying to figure out, myself in this totality of like what actually hurts, where it come from, where I need to grow at. So I think that's like for me in this season of my life, trying to really hone in on what hurt, why I hurt, and then try to fix it. So that's why that title kind of resonated with me.
And I think that it's important that when we think about this too is, yes, we do need to definitely talk about the good and the bad and figure out, like, how do we become better? How do we, just like the question about how do you enhance your partner so that you guys will grow better, so that maybe later on in life you still will be married 20 years, 30 years, 40 years from now. But also, what do you need to know about yourself to enhance yourself to be better? Not just for somebody else, but for you. Because I just remember one of the conversations we had, there were people saying, sometimes I don't want to be by myself because I don't want to hear the voices. And the voices could be negative, they could be just loneliness, or they could be spots that I just have not cleaned out. Similar to like what you said here, like there are some things that you keep hitting or haven't talked about because you just rather leave those right there, but they don't disappear. It's just that sometimes they manifest somewhere else with trauma, or something happens that make you think about it. And then you look up and you're like, well, I don't know how I got here, but this is what I'm feeling right now.
With that, I always, if a situation arises, and I'm like, damn, man, I hate this. I always what to your head. When Courtney B was saying, man, guys always push things under the rug, or I think Robin said that in the book when she was like, men, we don't really take a moment to say, we always pushing things back. I got it, I'll be okay. Or actually take in the pain that you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
You always just brush it aside and say, okay, or you give yourself a moment.
But do we really got time to do we really got time to correct and fix every time that we feeling away? Because I just feel like, and it could be wrong, but life, for me at least, be moving so fast that sometimes, right, like I have to sweep something under the rug, and then that's why I said now I'm in a season to where, okay, it's different points where I go talk to, my mentor, and then kind of break down what I'm feeling, why I'm feeling. But in the moment, sometimes you gotta, for me, I gotta sweep it under the rug and keep going, because stuff still need to get done, people still need to be fed, stuff still need to be taken care of. So just in that moment, sometimes I just can't not sweep it under the rug. But I do think it's important to have a season where you do address those things. If you don't address them, then you're gonna explode.
So there's a spot on page 71.
Hey, boss, before you go there to that 71, I want to say it's kind of funny. I don't know if any man has ever done that. I would always watch my grandfather. He would just sit in his car. And I'm like, man, we called him Daddy. His name was William Terry, but we always called him Daddy. I'm like, I wonder why Daddy's sitting in the car. And so before I go in the house, now it's like on the Sunday, like 2:00, I just go sit in my car, and I'm like, damn, it's really cool in here. You just sitting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, but I'm like, has anybody ever just sat in their car and just sat there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do that.
And that's I don't know. I would want to share that because that's like such a
But it goes along with this too, because 71, it says, what do I tell me about me? Get quiet, sit down and ask, where do I hurt? And then ponder the internal soundtrack that's stuck on repeat inside your head. And what do I tell me about me? Do I affirm how gifted I am? Do I blame myself for things that were done to me or put down myself? After you put a lens on the internal dialogue, ask yourself, who planted that message? Is that your voice on the tape or someone else's? Because as black men, sometimes people have put messages on us, or we've witnessed things that given us that message. So he says later on down, if you struggle to talk about how you feel, Is it because you grew up in a family in which nobody opened up? Or did the folks in your family rage and rail so much you just learned how to shut down? And so that stuck out to me, especially when we start talking about, like, you know, it's just not always the bad things, but what message do you say to yourself in that repeat? Because in that repeat, I'm still have that, no matter how much I say I'm not dealing with that today, the message is still there.
Yeah. There's this book called Atomic Habits. And it's like your decisions are like the stock market. And even like deciding to talk to yourself in a more positive way is going to add to your mental state of being. But on the other end of that, you talk to yourself negatively, that is also going to compound over time. So that self-talk, and I think it's important for everybody to know, like, the more you talk positively about yourself, the better you're going to feel. You know, the more negatively you're going to talk, the more negative. And you hold me accountable.
So
You know what I'm
kind of
saying?
like knowing your worth, right?
Yeah.
Knowing your value, right?
I feel it coming, Quinn. All right, you guys, this conversation has been like amazing, and it's got heated. So I tell you what, you're gonna have to tune in to next week when we have another group ready to talk about this. But I'm telling you, this invisible ache is bringing up some wounds, some things that we have buried, and you'll be surprised at some other things that probably will come out of this. But I had to come after I got them out of here to tell you guys that it's a lot of conversation going on in this about this book. So please join us next week, and make sure you hit the like button and the share button.